have on the overhead represents what the building looks like with the flat roof, and what they plan on doing is going to a non-flat roof. They will have it sloped. This is one of those situations that we read about in the newspapers sometimes, but fortunately this was taken care of before we read about it in the newspapers. If you remember, on February 25th, we had a really heavy rain, and the roof drains on this building got clogged. That's one of the reasons John Householder preaches big roof drains. And after the storm, the roof was retaining water unbeknownst to the occupants, but they noticed the roof was leaking, and so they contacted, fortunately, an architect rather than just a roofer, because they had had roof leaks in the past. They contacted an architect and said, we may want to do something more than just repair the roof. The architect looked at it and promptly closed the facility down, because the only thing holding the roof up was non-load-bearing walls. So fortunately, no one was hurt, but it was a good thing they called in an architect. If you wanted a good view, you just had to go up in the Hampton Inn and look down, and you could see what he was talking about. So we have actually issued permits and everything for this, because this was an emergency situation. And fortunately, no one was hurt, and they are proceeding, and they are taking care of the problem. So obviously, we are recommending approval of this. They've met all of the requirements with what we needed from our end, showing from the site plan requirements. But this is one of those situations where we're extremely grateful that nothing actually did happen, and they caught it before.
How old was that?
I don't know the exact age, but I know it's more than 20 years. Folks that have been here longer can possibly remember the age of the building or when it was built.
Applicant wish to say anything? No. Any other questions from the Planning Commission or anyone in the audience? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, and we're glad nothing else is having to be done here. Item number 9, discussion and public hearing on a concept plan for the villas at Anchor Park, an attached single-family development. Parcels 59 and 59.606, tax map 152, located on the north side of Turkey Creek Road across from Anchor Park. Approximately 30 acres, zoned R-4, 108 units, and a variance request from the Farragut subdivision regulations to reduce the required pavement width from 26 feet to 22 feet, and to reduce the required K value for side curves at 6 locations. Smith Farm Residential Partners applicant. And I'm sure Ruth is going to tell us what K value and for side curves is, because
Where's Larry Bull? We had that course once.
Actually, if you want to go into the details, I want to defer to Chris, but I can explain it to you in layman's terms.
I think that's what we need.
This site is familiar to you because last month we workshopped the rezoning request, which is a little later in the agenda. But this property, this concept plan, here is Anchor Park, this is Turkey Creek Road. The rezoning is of this portion right here, but this concept plan is of this whole area that's outlined in black. The Turkey Creek walking trail goes up along their east property line, separates them from Inverness on the north portion, and then it ties into Finch and to Bobolink streets up here. There will be no road connections, but there will be walking trail connections to these two streets, and then also a couple connections to the walking trail as we're going up the hill. If you're familiar with this, you know that this goes up the hill. When you're standing on Turkey Creek Road and you look toward this existing single-family house, you are looking up the hill, And if you have ever walked up the walking trail on the Turkey Creek walking trail, you know that you're going up the hill. One of the things that we get a lot of complaints about that the town is speeding within subdivisions. So when we met with the designer, Chris Sharp, on this, we were like, can you make some modifications to try to do some things to actually slow traffic down? And Chris, we commend him for what he did with this. This did result in some variance requests, though, because of this. And the first one being reducing the pavement width from 26 feet to 22 feet. And then I'm going to read the rest of these. Reduce the required K value for sag curve from 99 to 5.88. Street A at the entrance from Turkey Creek Road. Reduce the required K value for sag curves from 99 to 35. Street A, Station 0 plus 73.5 to Station 1 plus 69.98. Reduce the required K value for sag curves from 49 to 35. Street A, Station 12 plus 0.34 to Station 16 plus 76.40. Reduce the required K value for sag curves from 49 to 5. Intersection of Street A and Street B. Reduce the required K value for sag curves from 49 to 37.5. Street B, Station 4 plus 41.21 to Station 7 plus 41.13. And reduce the required K value for the sag curves from 49 to 20. Street C, Station 1 plus 17.92 to Station 2 plus 57.92. For those non-engineers, those numbers mean absolutely nothing, but a sag is the dip in the road. A crest is when you're going over the crest of a hill. In this particular situation, they are not requesting variances for any crests. If you have a variance on a crest, that can create a sight distance problem, and we don't support those, because if someone's backing out of their driveway, they really need a clear shot of what's coming down the road. A sag just kind of gives you that little dip feeling. Your headlights kind of go down, and you don't have a real comfortable feeling if you're going too fast, I guess is a good way to put it. Our subdivision regulations are designed for minimum design speeds, and some of you that were on the Planning Commission when we were going through the Bridgemore subdivision development process remember Darcy Sullivan's presentation, and we went through fairly extensive training with regards to, rather than possibly having minimum design speeds, we should have maximum design speeds so that we don't encourage speeding within neighborhoods. This is kind of what this requires, variances from our regulations, but this is kind of more what Chris was shooting for, with reducing the comfort level of going too fast, in essence. And so that is the purpose of the request for these variances. With regards to the more detail about the K value and all that, I will defer to Chris, because he's just right there ready to explain what that all means.
I'm sorry, Chris Sharp, Urban Engineering. K value is just it's a function of the slope of the end of the curve, out of the curve, and the length of the curve. So the higher the K value, the more moderate the curve. Excuse me, and vice versa. So the requests that we made, which I think I probably need those in layman's terms, are more commensurate with the lower design speed, like a 25 mile an hour that would be posted.
Staff is supportive of these variance requests. The design of the plan as I explained in the staff write-up, part of the issue with the narrower road is if you have a narrower road, you feel more confined and you will go slower. Our streets are standard 26 feet wide, and that is really to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic plus parking. In this particular case, parking on street really is not going to be an option because of the number of driveways. This is fairly typical with this type of development. You have a lot of driveways, so there really isn't any place to park on street because of the driveways. And so narrowing the street is acceptable in this situation because there really isn't places to park on street. Now, one of the things that Chris did was he did little bump outs at a couple of different locations where he provided some on-street parking, but in a perpendicular rather than parallel. If you did it parallel, then that just creates your wider street, and people, again, would go faster. So where there was room, he added a couple of places of on-street parking. This is in the, about halfway at 2/3 up the hill, or past the crest of the hill, where they where he added some other on-street parking. But again, as I explained earlier, there are some walking trail connections to the adjacent walking trail, and as we always require a walking trail to stub into adjacent vacant properties. One there. And then this is the tie-in to Finch, and then the tie-in to Bobolink. At your places in the staff recommendation, we do recommend approval of the variances, and then we also recommend approval of the concept plan, subject to items 1 through 7, number 7 being meet all town requirements.
All okay with the requirements?
Before you take action, one of the things you may have noticed in the letter that we wrote, and we asked them to look carefully at, is number 14 and 15 and number 24, is that the building footprint design did not capitalize on the views. If you've been up through there, you know the views are spectacular. And that also adopting the traffic calming, and they did a good job of both. Chris added, rather than making that such a straight shot through here, he did put a little curve into here. He did stagger the building so that the back porches could capitalize on the views as much as possible. There's not a whole lot of flexibility given the width of the property, but he did a good job and created a less of a row house look and a better design that will be more appealing to potential purchasers, but also for the existing Turkey Creek Road area residents for the style of the design.
Audience have any questions or comments? To have a motion? Oh,
First, a motion on the variances, and you can do that as one motion, and then we need one for this, for the concept plan.
so we'll do the variances first.
Oh, and I forgot on the concept plan, obviously, one of those will be, we need to add an 8, and that is the rezoning being finalized.
Have a motion on the request for the variance. Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So do we have any questions before we move on to a motion? Do we have any questions about the concept plan from anyone?